You want more? It's 184.
The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Need a show about outdoor living? This is where it's at. With your hosts, Shane Chapman and Way Laurent. Thank you for tuning in. Now let the show begin. Yeah. The Ultimate Deck Podcast. Let's go.
Good morning, everybody.
Nope. It's afternoon now.
Okay, good afternoon. Well, it depends on where you are. We're right at noon right now.
Took over 30 minutes to get this thing wrangled up today.
It's at noon 30.
Like herding cats in here.
For some of our audience, it's going to be before noon, and some it's after. So let's be honest, most of our audience is coming from the east. So
happy day.
Scorcher out there today. Nice, warm, sunny day. No wind. Not much wind. Which, let's be honest, our weather's been shit this spring.
It's been shit. Is it spring? It still is spring.
It feels like...
Let's talk about it.
No, it's not. That ended yesterday.
Oh.
Summer solstice is on the
Today's
21st.
The 22nd.
Here now.
Shorter days now.
Damn it.
Oh, I didn't think about that part, you Debbie Downer. Get off your phone. God, what are you, my kid?
Trying to get a car.
It's a podcast.
Trying to get a car for the
I'm not looking
weekend.
for cars.
So we're really close to leaving for Teximus. What are we, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? We leave Sunday.
Sunday.
We get on a plane to Toronto, and we spend the night in Toronto. Have you booked those hotel rooms, by the way?
Nope.
In Toronto. Yeah. Let's worry about the hotel rooms first.
Yeah. I'd like a place to sleep.
You can sleep in the terminal if it all goes sideways. But we can't walk 2 hours. It might be more walking than that.
It would be more than 2 hours.
Hotel rooms.
Yeah.
So Texas happens on Sunday for the Steel versus Steel event
No.
down in Mount
Steel
Pleasant.
sharpens.
For sure not versus...
Steel sharpens steel. This is
the
a
guy we gotta
cooperative
watch.
You know what?
event.
I like to cut through marketing bullshit. This is Steel versus Steel. Everybody's going to form an opinion about which one they like best while they're down there. So we can try to pretend this.
Shane's staying home. He's going to get real sick before we leave.
Fine, Steel sharpens steel. So that's coming up. But Bryce, you mentioned that you didn't want to talk about that. You had some statements.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know what that means.
So here's a statement, and you guys can tell me if you agree with it or not. Waffles are better than pancakes.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Oh, wow. Really? Everybody likes waffles better than pancakes.
Agreed. Pancakes
What do you like about...
are only really, really good when they're super crispy and fluffy. You know where the best pancakes actually exist?
Where?
Is in hotels.
You
With
mean the ones that like sit out?
No. The ones that have the machines, the batter machines.
Oh.
And you like, wait, those are waffles. Those are waffle machines. I take it back.
Okay.
But sometimes they have pancake machines too. But those are always good because they're 50% oil.
Right.
And so they come out super crispy and super fluffy and they're amazing.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
You can only eat so many before you have to not eat for a month.
Waffles are the best.
Waffles, for sure.
A thumb should be counted as a finger.
Yes.
Yeah, of course it should.
Okay. Man, you guys are just too agreeable.
You know what? People who say well, you only have 8 fingers and 2 thumbs, those people deserve a punch in the beak. So
Till you cut one off and then
Right.
and it turns out you lost a finger.
No, you lost a thumb.
it's still a finger. It's just on the other side of your hand. It's over here. It's opposable.
It's an opposable finger.
That's why yeah, right? They don't have to call it an opposable thumb because you only have one thumb. You don't have to
exactly
give it an adjective. It's just your thumb.
Mm-hmm.
It is where it is.
Okay, here's another one. A bar of soap cannot be dirty.
Not true. Absolutely not true.
Oh,
Bar of soap can be very dirty.
it can be dirty.
Yes,
Yeah,
it can.
Of course it can.
Have you ever dropped it in the dirt?
Yeah, but is it dirty then?
Yep.
But it just washes off.
Not until you wash it off.
Oh, okay.
Is soap antibacterial?
Isn't it? I don't know. Is it?
I don't think it is. I don't think most soaps
Some
are not
is.
antibacterial. Yeah, like soap in hospitals are, but I
When
don't
was
think
the last time you used a bar of soap?
only in hotels when they have that and no body wash.
That's true.
Like I'm not a bar of soap guy at all.
You don't like bars of soap.
You know what comes across my
I
feed?
have a question about bars of soap.
Okay.
So do you rub the bar of soap on yourself or do you lather your hands
Nope.
and then
No,
do
you
the
rub
soap?
it on yourself.
Yeah, you put it where people don't want to know it's going.
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
and that's why it's dirty.
That's why it's
Right?
dirty.
I don't care that it does the cleaning. It doesn't mean that it's clean. It actually means it's taking the dirty off you and putting it on itself.
Yeah, but then it's
Dirty with your...
so what is clean?
Listen, if there's a hair on the soap, it's dirty. I don't care. scientifically how much shit is growing on it. If there's a hair on it, it's gross.
It's dirty.
It's
garbage.
It's
Throw it in the
garbage.
garbage.
And there's always a hair on it. That's the problem.
Can't get them off, actually.
Okay, here's a good. I like this one. Mayonnaise is the most versatile condiment. You can put it on anything.
Oh, boy, I would have thought ketchup would have been.
Only because you're Canadian.
I think I would agree with that. Oh, what about ranch? Ranch dressing.
But
That's-
what's the
would you-
base of ranch? Mayonnaise?
Nah.
I don't think so. I think it's just powdered
Oil.
milk.
Oil.
Yeah. I don't know. What is ranch flavor?
That's a weird question. I don't know what that, like, how do you describe what mayonnaise tastes like?
Well, mayonnaise tastes like
Or
salt
ketchup.
and oil and
Ketchup's like, does
sweet
not taste
tomatoes.
like yeah, mayonnaise is pretty versatile because you can put that shit on anything. Oh,
You can't say
Frank's
that.
Red's Hot
got-
must be the most
we
versatile.
got to 5 minutes, so you're fine.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Was that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Deck Protect John Witt says, meet up in Toronto. Sure. If Wade would book us hotel rooms, we could let you know where we'll be when we get there.
It's going to be right by the airport, I can tell
By
you
the
that.
airport. And I think we are meeting up with
Well, Gord
Jason
and,
Meyer and Gord Woodbully and Mike from Simcoe.
Yeah, I think he's coming in
Scott.
early too.
We have
That
to be
night,
there quite
so-
early, don't we?
Yeah, feel free to swing by.
So we leave here at like 2 p.m. on Sunday,
Yeah.
and then we fly out of Toronto 7 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
So if we leave here
Sunday.
at 2, we're in Toronto by 5 our time, which is 7 their time.
Yeah.
So we're there for the
We're-
evening.
We have
so
we could do some drinks and appies and drinks in the evening
Yeah.
near the airport.
Yeah. Well, I heard we have to be at the Toronto airport insanely early.
You know what? We're
2
actually
a.m. Yeah. So
We're flying on a
Might as well just stay up.
different. We're flying on American Airlines going down
Oh, okay.
because Air Canada in and out of Toronto is like
A zoo?
brutal.
Why?
So they said American Airlines is better.
Okay.
So that's what we're taking.
So only 4 hours before. John says Yorkdale Holiday Inn.
Sure, book
There
it.
you
I'll text you my card number. Book it.
Just flash it live on the podcast.
Just quick.
Screen record this now.
Okay.
Okay, let's get to our topic.
No more statements. Hit it.
Oh, you want me to hit the
God
button?
damn it.
I didn't know you wanted me to hit
For
the
how long
button.
have we been doing the button? How long? We all agreed the button added so much to the
And it was
to the
just kinda-
podcast.
It's like it's like when I go out and hook up the trailer or go to drive the trailer and it's all hooked up wrong. And it's just like,
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Right, exactly.
how is this not hooked up properly? Don't we do this
How
twice
about
a day
just
every day?
don't do it if
Never
you're not going to
mind.
do it right? Yeah, false sense of
Then I
safety.
decided
I
I
wasn't
was
going to do it.
then I decided I was going to have a trailer hookup tutorial one of these days. I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
like bring everybody to the yard and be like, listen, here's a refresher because only 3 weeks ago you learned how to do this. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
What are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about pricing. This is a topic that is always very hush hush. And it's one of the most common questions that inexperienced contractors ask other contractors is, how do you price this job? What do you do for this price?
how much does a deck cost?
Yeah,
How
that
much
too.
does a deck cost?
So we were going to narrow this down and kind of like choose a specific topic and itemize it and whatever else. But we decided, you know what, let's just have a general conversation about pricing. And so we came up with 8 questions / topics that we're just going to like talk about.
Let's talk.
So don't assume that we're smart on this stuff. This is just opinionated.
That is all we do give legally is opinions.
Legally. Yeah. So the first one, Wade, that always comes up is line item pricing versus an all-in price. So some guys, pretty rare, will break their estimates right down to the bits and pieces. And I would say most others, or a lot of the others, just give you a flat price, all in materials and labor and profit and everything is in one number. Your deck is going to cost $20,000.
Yep.
Where do you think does it have to be that black and white, or is there a middle ground? And how do you feel about both?
Of course, there's a middle ground. I think everybody should price it however they want to sell the jobs. So I think that some level of transparency goes a long ways with your customers. And so
I would agree with that.
I would say you should probably break out kind of what your material costs are and what your labor cost is.
Okay.
And then not Like you don't have to say this many 2x8s and this many deck boards, but you should say, this is what I'm using for materials on your deck. And this is what I'm going to pay myself for building your deck.
Right. Okay. And so
You could do the two. I think that's probably far enough when you're a contractor to homeowner.
yeah,
That's probably far enough.
this comes up all the time, especially in the Facebook groups out there. And there's, I would almost say, a semi-viral response to customers who want a breakdown.
Visceral, even.
Yeah.
Like they're angry about it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. You throw me off what I was trying to say now, but
Sorry.
so
You told me the story earlier.
So contractor gives price and it's like, it's $20,000 for the deck. And I've seen this a few times now where it's like, they'll screenshot their messages and send it back. And the customer's like, can you give us a price breakdown? And they're like, sure. Deck, 20,000. Not doing your deck, $0. There's your breakdown.
Whoa.
And it's like, it's just that back. It's like, yeah, your breakdown is I can do it or I won't. Your call. So I don't know if that's the right approach, but
Yeah, I would do it different than that.
so the way I used to do it, which I felt was like a good kind of medium ground, was
Which is probably why you did it that way.
right, just a floater in the center. I feel like giving an all-in price can give customers concerns, like when they don't,
Yes.
you haven't helped them to understand what's in that lump sum. But I also certainly understand the contractor's perspective of not wanting to break it down to line item pricing, because there's only bad that can come from that, from the
Right.
customer's perspective. If they're asking for that, it's because they're trying to nickel and dime you somehow.
Yeah, they gotta
wanna
figure
know
out where-
every little detail, and like, oh, you only use 17 2x8s, not the 18 you had on there, so I want my like. There's certainly a lot of like unfavorable conversations that can come from doing that. So the way I used to do it, and this is not right or wrong, this is just where I found was like a nice soft spot where I never got pushback, but I also didn't have to give such clarity that it was going to cause issues, was to break it down kind of almost by stage. It was like framing materials, framing install, decking materials, decking install, railing materials, railing install, pile materials, pile install. And so they got to see like, okay, now I understand that if I want to save a little bit of money on this job, that I can see that changing my decking will have an impact on that, because that's
where the
that's
number
$5,000
changes.
of the 20 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So if I choose a decking that's half as much, I can understand that I'm going to save $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
But it wasn't telling them how many boards I was bringing out or whatever, right? Because the problem with that too is a lot of contractors will add extra to have on hand, so they don't run a board short if they cut
Yes.
one or whatever, and they'll return it at the end. And then the customer thinks, oh, well, I paid for those. It's like, no, I paid for them. I added them extra on top of what I actually needed. You don't get the money back for those.
Yep.
Those were never intended to stay here.
Yeah, those were intended to save you the $100 in the trip that I was going to have to make, and then
Right.
charge you for an extra travel.
Exactly.
Right. An extra hour or whatever.
Yeah. So how would you respond? So let's say you're a contractor who does give a lump sum.
Yeah.
It's $20,000. And the customer says, can you provide a breakdown?
At what stage of the like sales process are we talking about? Because like I think that's
Well,
important.
this is obviously
Early,
quoting.
delivering the
Is this
quote.
quoting?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Delivering the quote.
Okay.
Here's how much it's going to be for me to do your job before they've committed.
Before they've committed.
Yeah.
I
It's
I
20
would.
grand. Can you give me a breakdown?
Yeah, I wouldn't break it down any more than labor and materials.
I don't even. Yeah, I don't know. I
That's
don't even
what I
know
would
if you
do.
go that far. I'd like labor and materials. I think
That's it.
That's where you go on the quoting stage.
Yeah, if you deliver a quote that is one number,
Yep.
then I would break that down to two numbers. That's it. That's as far as I would go. And if they're like further, I'd be like, not my customer. Sorry.
Yeah.
This isn't going to work for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. They are already not comfortable with the contractor. Otherwise, they would have just purchased it, right?
Yeah.
They would have, if they, like, they obviously don't, whether have concerns or don't trust you or something. Like, something's off already.
I feel like
So,
this is certainly not all inclusive, but I feel like an awful lot of the time, the reason this comes up is because the contractor hasn't appropriately defined the scope of work,
right. They haven't explained what's happening.
and the customer has questions.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're not trying to nickel and dime you. They're just be like, what's in this? What's in the 20 grand? Did
Yeah.
you remember the skirting that we requested? Are we getting the gravel underneath the deck and the landscape fabric? Is that part of that? You talked about, like, if you haven't, I think if you gave them at least an itemized list of the scope of work and then it costs this much, you'd likely avoid a lot of that in the first place. It's like they understand what they're getting now, at least.
Yep.
Right. But And some guys are really good at doing that, and others are probably awful at doing that. So, I think I'm always torn in this because I think the attitude of like, it's this much to build it or else it's zero to not build it. I think that's a little bit terse and like you're not going to,
I don't agree with that.
you're being a little abrasive and it's just not going to help the cause the situation. If you try to understand why are they asking for the breakdown or whatever.
Yep.
I mean, if there's other red flags where this guy's been trying to nickel dime me the whole way through and then the last thing he does is be like, I want this broken down. Sure. Peace out. There's a lot of things piling up here. But if it's been generally a good experience with this client and they're just trying to understand the scope a little bit better, then I think you at least need to come back and give them like, here's what's included in. I think that's obvious. Here's what's included in that price. You don't have to say that.
I guess I assumed that
40
was already written down.
Yeah.
Right?
Doesn't have to be. We're ordering 47 Trex Foggy Wharf boards and the cost of those is whatever.
Yeah.
Right. 1,400.
I assumed that the scope would be written down in the lump sum number.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like appropriate to give clients prospective clients just the lump sum first?
Yes.
And then if they ask for questions, you can break it down further.
Yes.
Because then it feels like they're a little more qualified.
That's right. I think you can do that if you're qualifying a customer.
Right.
Well, I think that should be done like you can ballpark a number before to qualify them before you put the effort of delivering a full scale quote.
Yep.
I don't think it's a bad idea to give people a ballpark. The tricky thing with that is you have to have the right communications that they understand that this is not, in no way can you hold me to this number. I'm telling you it's going to be about 50 grand. If this comes back at 58, don't be like, well, you said 50. No, I gave you a rough number so that you could start to digest a little bit. And now here's the actual
get ready.
The number, right? If it was 42, I wouldn't be going, but I said 50 though. So it's 50, right? Like goes both ways.
Right.
How would you respond to a customer who wants a lower quote? So you've done all your homework. You've delivered the quote. The quote is $25,000 and the customer comes back and says, boy, that's a little bit above our budget. Could you do it for 20?
Yeah. I would just remove things. I would identify things that you could remove to get the price down to what their budget is. I wouldn't do it for less. I valued my work at a certain price and that's how we arrived at this number.
Yeah.
If you want it for less, it's not like you don't negotiate your wage when you go to work. That's my phone.
Okay.
I was like, who's buzzing?
What?
I had a phone call.
Not anymore.
Great. Why don't you answer it and let the world hear? Your prescription's ready for your crotch.
Yeah, exactly.
No, thank you.
Anyways, they don't have to negotiate their wage when they go to work. And so
Can you imagine if you did every day?
Yeah, every day you went to work. You had to be like,
So, first thing you just pop by your manager's office and be like,
okay, today
you're working for 20. I'm feeling more like it's a $22 day, sir.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
So that's the equivalent of what you've asked that person to do, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think
I
that's
would
the
say
way
you
to
just
go about it.
identify some things that can change. It's like, okay, well, your budget is a little bit less. Maybe we don't do the skirting right now. That removes a little bit of material. It removes some labor, you know?
Yep.
How about just cheaper deck boards? Like how much did we miss the budget by? Are we missing the budget by thousands or hundreds? If it's hundreds, we can make some simple changes to the shape or to the material and you could be there, right?
Or to your credit card limit.
Right. There is also that where it's like, just pay for it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I would not disagree with that. I think it's you help them try to find the number that works for them. And if they're just grinding, you'd be like, no, I want the same thing. I just want you to do it for less. Like that's a showstopper
when you
right
walk
there.
away.
Yeah, that's a red flag to me right there. So, but there's no problem in being like, hey, if you need to get to 20, we can do that. Here's what I would suggest. I would suggest moving your board from the Trex Transcend Island Mist to Trex Foggy Wharf. That's going to save you $3,000.
over.
And then you wanted to do fancy mitered stairs. We're going to do them this way. That's going to save you another $800. And then you wanted to do cable rail. Let's go to a picket rail. There we go. We're at 20.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, no, I don't want to give up all those things.
No
Okay.
more wraparound stairs.
Yeah. Right. That's huge. Lots of people do big cascading stairs on
Yeah.
the deck. It's like,
How do you feel about it if it's, I feel like this scenario is extremely rare, the actual thing. But let's say you were quoting against a competitor. The competitor gave their quote. You gave your quote. they're like, we really want to work with you, but the other guy was lower. So could you do it for the price he's doing it? And let's just pretend this would never happen. Let's pretend the scope of work was exactly the same. All the same material, all the same details, everything was the same. It was just like that guy was clearly just willing to work for less. Do you entertain that?
I guess it would depend how far apart we were. You know what I mean? Like if it's 15%, no. But if it's 2% and I really want to do the job, maybe.
I think this completely comes down to where you are in your business.
Yeah.
If you're established and you're busy and you're confident and you're whatever, then I think the answer is no, we know our numbers.
Yeah.
This is a number we have to be at to run our business.
Yeah.
We're not out here like driving Maseratis. We are making a wage for ourselves and earning a profit for our company, and it's not absurd. And by me doing it for less than this, something gives, and it's only a loss for me. Like either I lose all my profit or
That's what I mean. If it was
desperate
close,
position. Yeah.
like if the numbers were close and you had a good, like there's so many factors in that. But if you got a good vibe with the customer, right, and you've done the quote and it's going to be a nice job, and you can tell that there's not a lot of red flags. They haven't been grinding you on price. They've just like, give us this, and you deliver the quote, and they're like, okay, like you're really good to work with.
Mm-hmm.
We've enjoyed our conversations, but this other guy is just slightly less. And be like, if it was just slightly, then I probably would. If it was a lot, I probably wouldn't.
The other angle is that if it's just slightly less, why can't they just
Pay slightly more.
walk up and pay more for the guy that they had the better experience with so far?
That's
and
right.
value them a little bit more, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You were better in all aspects, but I want to pay
Yep.
less. It's like, well,
How do you tell the customer that though? Like, what do you
just say
to
that.
them?
that's
You
a
just
tough
say that.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason you like me more is because I've invested in myself and my business more, and I take it more professionally, and that means I have a little bit of additional cost than the other guy did. The other guy showed up in grungy crap clothes. I invest in like proper branded professional attire that costs me a little bit more to dress that way. I have a sales estimator that's hired to come out and talk to you. You had the guy who's kind of like building a deck as well, but I have an extra guy in payroll to make sure that they show up on time and have time for you and know they're like, they're not wearing 16 different hats. Like there's all those kinds of things in the background too. So that's, yeah.
But I would think if you had an estimator, you're probably not just slightly different price.
yeah, maybe
I
not.
would think
right?
you're probably significantly
Yeah.
different at that point.
Could be. Yeah.
But anyways,
What's the I've seen this question
Hard.
popping around on some
That's a
social
tough
media. I
one.
can't remember what it is. It's a guy on TikTok, I think, and I'm not even sure that it's decking specific, but his thing is, and I'm not even sure I understand exactly why he says it, but he's like, when you get a pushback on a customer who wants you to do it for less, the first thing you should ask them is, if I do this job for less, will you trust me more? And he's like, it's a catch for them because they will never say, no, I won't trust you more. Or they won't,
Or,
like
yes, I
they
trust
don't
you
feel confident that in answering that question either way. It's like a bit of a
Right.
catch for them. It's like, yes, I'd trust you more if you did for less. Well, why? Why would that make you trust me more?
yeah.
Because I'm working for less?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, no, I wouldn't trust you anymore. Well, then what is the point of this then? Like, so I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to play out, but he's convinced that that's one showstopper questions where it's like, you can curb that request in its tracks. Maybe it's just a shift of power back to you, or it's
think
like
so,
puts them
yeah.
off the rocker and
Yep.
they become less confident and you're even asking for it.
Yeah.
I don't know, but anyway, how do you deal with sticker shock? Because that was a real thing years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's only getting
gotten more-
worse.
more expensive. So what's the best way to go about the fact that most people, when delivered an estimate, are going to go, holy shit?
I don't know if you've qualified them properly. Maybe you don't. Maybe they're not as sticker shocked, right? So like we were talking just moments ago about pre-qualifying your customer.
Yep.
So if
And
they've called and said, I want a deck, and you're like, okay, how big? And they're like, 24 by 12 or 24 by 16 or whatever it is. And you're like, that's 35,000.
Yep.
They're like, holy smokes. Like, yep. So
Right.
anyways, when that number starts to fit right with you,
Right.
come see me and we can actually dive into this a bit more.
Yeah. When that's your budget,
Yeah, maybe it isn't.
you
And
can
that's
be
okay.
ready.
The other thing you can do is you can possibly be prepared for sticker shock, because a lot of people are, and you can have financing options available.
Mm-hmm.
And you can deliver that big number in small monthly increments.
Yeah.
Which helps probably.
Yeah, for sure. The sticker shock comes from the fact that they aren't educated enough to understand what to expect.
Right.
They just don't know. They're coming in for a deck and they don't know if it should be 5,000 or 15,000 or 30,000. They really have no reference point because they've never done any sort of building before at all. They just know it's going to be thousands. So in their head, they think like, well, it could be 5. And then it's 28. And they're like, oh my God. So I think probably one of the biggest thing to do is to give them that ballpark budget up front so that they can have some time to digest that and be like, okay. And if they feel the need to, they can maybe check other sources and be like, holy smokes, I guess this is what this kind of goes for now. And that way, when you deliver it, you don't lose them right away. Because if the first number they see is your quote, it might be over at that point. They just disappear.
And people are funny, right? They won't, but typically they're not going to come back. If you deliver a quote and it scares them and they're like, often they'll just be like, kind of too proud to come back.
You won't get a second chance.
Sometimes you don't, right? And so we've talked about this in the story, and you try and like soften the blow a little bit and let people know what's kind of coming. And it was like, and then you deliver the quote and then follow up a little bit after and be like, all right, well, I had said this and what actually happened was this. And so where are we at? Are we close? Are we not? You know?
Yeah. And probably by, breaking things down a little bit at least and giving a proper complete scope of work can help with this too. Cause then it's like, holy shit, 28. And then as they get into it, it's like, okay, well, I guess the decking is 14. So like what?
Yeah.
I guess. Well, maybe we should tweak that a bit. We can go with something a little bit cheaper or whatever.
Yeah. And if you have it broken down properly, I guess it gives them a starting point to come back to you, right?
Yeah.
Be like, ugh, this is a lot.
Yeah.
How can we make this cheaper?
How can we change? Because we'll be honest, we thought 5. Our budget was 15. You said 28, so we're now at 20. Right? And it was like, we've upped ours. We need you to change yours. No problem.
Yeah. One of the reasons that they might have unrealistic expectations is because of these silly little project calculators that are showing up on a lot of the manufacturers' websites. So you can go to Trex or different manufacturers' websites and it's like, how much should my project cost? Punch in your square feet. Well, it should be $12,000. Sounds good. I can do $12,000. Get quote from contractor ABC. A comes back 19. B comes back 22. C comes back 21. And it's like, how is this? And then what happens is right away you think the contractors are out to screw you.
Yeah. You know who they don't call?
Trex.
Yeah.
The project calculator guys.
They don't call the calculator guys because that's the number they like.
Right.
That's what they want.
And I don't know if this is malicious intent or not, but I feel like because these calculators seem to always underestimate it, it's almost as if they don't want the sticker shock. They want this thing to progress to the next stage and they want the contractor to deal with the why.
Yep.
You go explain what it is, right?
Yeah.
These guys are like, it'll cost you 12. They're like, oh, that's right where we thought. And then it turns out it doesn't cost 12. Who's doing this for 12?
It's like the materials are 12.
$11,000 in materials.
Look at Bryce's face. Are you reading this quote, this message?
Well, there was a comment on our YouTube, but that was exactly this issue. He's like, and they just commented yesterday. They said, I went on one of these project calculators on a manufacturer's website and I was told that the job was I don't know if he said what it was going to be, but it said it was going to be something. And he's like, then I went and got quotes from 2 different contractors and they both came back around $30,000. It was significantly higher than what this calculator told me. Does this sound right to you? First of all, he never gave us any details. Scale of the project. It was like no size, no nothing, not anything about what it was other than the decking. And I was like, well, I can't answer that without knowing anything about it. But what I do know is that I believe you. I believe that you did use a project calculator that told you it was going to be less than what it actually was. That happens all the time. And contractors are pissed about it universally and some of them do think it's malicious, right? Some of them are like, their manufacturers are trying to screw us out of making a living off doing this because board prices and materials prices have gone up. And they're trying to grind the labor down so that it stays more affordable.
Yeah. I wonder if when these calculators were built, if they had any input from contractors or if they just made their own stuff up.
Okay. So
hard to say.
So I just went and did a calculator just live here.
Okay.
12 by 12 deck. How much would my wood deck cost?
Built?
In materials.
Materials?
How much would my
$2,500
cost on a 12 by 12
USD?
deck?
Canadian.
2,500.
1,400.
They say the deck materials will cost $469
Yeah.
for wood
Zero
deck.
chance.
And a composite deck material should cost $1,539 without a substructure
Absolutely no way.
and railing.
Without a substructure?
Yeah.
Oh, so this is just the price of the boards.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, you have $400 worth of boards.
Sure.
And $1,500
That one
worth
actually
of
doesn't
boards.
sound too bad. If it's just,
But how do you, like, what are you going to put the boards on?
it's 144. That's actually a decent, that's a decent. Turns out Bryce has found a really good calculator for
Figuring out the price of the boards, but this is what,
because that's basically saying composite is $10 a square foot. Well, that's possible with an entry level composite that's $3 a linear
right,
foot.
but the misleading part of that is that somebody looks at that and thinks that's the price of the deck.
It's 100%. Unless that's
the
very
price of the
clear about
boards.
just the deck boards, that is very misleading.
You have no framing, you have no railing, you have no labor, it's the worst.
Yeah. Deck Protect says internet provincial standard cost, that stuff is BS. Yeah, there's no standardized anything as far as that goes. Clayton McNeil says, I heard you guys are heading to Texas. True story. We leave Sunday. We'll be in the, what do they call it? What's Texas call itself?
Fort Worth?
No, what is like the
Lone
state model?
Stars.
The Lone Star State?
Yeah.
The Lone Star State on Monday. We'll be there from Monday till Thursday. The LED light guy, I think he's saying how you respond to this. I know this is probably more than you expected. This is why we charge. Build value. Here's a list of a few companies that may be cheaper, but be sure to ask these questions so you don't run into something. I don't know what he's talking about. He didn't finish that. Sure. If you want to end that politely and be like, I feel like this is not my customer because you don't have the budget for me. Sure. You could refer them to some other lesser people, lesser contractors if they feel the need. I mean, it's a nice customer service exit, I guess, to refer, not just leave them hanging, but be like, sounds like we're not a good match. That's completely fine. But there's a couple of companies that are starting out that are newer that I know do charge a little bit less. You could go with them. It's not going to be exactly the same fit and finish, but if you're okay with that, then here you go. Thanks. Have a great day.
Yeah. I don't mind that. I guess that to me, that would be a last resort. Like I would try a bunch of different things because you've invested time into the customer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're a gambler. Hey, gambler's fallacy. You're pot committed. Just keep playing.
Well, no, like
just
like
$20 more.
Like I wouldn't change my. Well, I would if I wouldn't change my labor price unless it was a little bit lower and I like the customers. Like there's so many things that go into this. You know what I mean? Like it's not just a barcode that you scan and then you like it happens. You know what I mean? It's not that set. There's so many factors that go into it.
Yeah.
So it's extremely subjective and it's super based on what your company is. And like maybe you just came off a deck that was a 12 by 10 and your guys were super efficient and you crushed on that one and you made a little bit more, but this one's got some lights and privacy walls and you know that you want to add that stuff to your Instagram profile and you want to start like at, and you know, you just made a bunch on this one before. And so like, if you were to average the two, then you net out better. Like, not that you should have to give that up, but it's like, if somebody asked you to do it for just a little bit less and you know, you made one just a little bit more, then
yep.
Can you do that? He was like, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah,
or
you could do that.
or you don't have to. So
Newcastle Build says, I had this conversation with the president of marketing at Trex and was told they came up with their calculator pricing by asking Trex Pro Platinums around the country what they charge.
Really?
So they did a little bit of research. Well, the deceiving thing about that is we've talked about this before, that Trex Pro Platinums, all that means is that you've installed a lot of Trex decking.
It's true.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you might
The
have only ever
qualifier to
built a
be-
whole bunch of small, basic little decks, but just a lot of them with, they're not all charging the same, I guess is what my point is. You can have a Trex Pro that charges, that's very like on the low end of what you charge. And you have a lot of Trex Pros that might be like Newcastle, who's a high end builder and like he charges a lot. So as long as they got a good sample size and average it out, but even still, so you find the average, well, what if that customer contacts a Newcastle Build or a premium builder and they've been given an average price? Here's what it's going to cost on average, and you're a premium guy and you deliver that price, like it's way off.
Way off.
Yeah. So it's impossible to say what it is. So It's tricky because
every year too, because they have to keep it updated.
Right. It's a tricky thing because you want to be able to give these end users an idea of what this might cost, but it's like the range is so much that it's hard to give somebody an accurate number when you don't know who they're calling to get the quote.
I don't know that I believe that these calculators that are on the manufacturer website are a malicious thing. I don't believe that they're malicious. I believe
you haven't listened to Johnny Huck stories. He thinks thinks they're malicious.
I think they're just trying to they're trying to provide an answer to what customers are asking. Customers are like, I don't even know who to ask to start.
Yeah.
That last number that I gave you, that $495 for a wood deck, was with all the framing.
There's no way. There is no way.
Yeah. It was with all the framing.
Probably not anymore.
It's the 2022 calculator.
Yeah. So, I mean, framing used to be $3 a square foot and your decking used to be $2 a square foot. So $5 a square foot. Sure. You would have been close to that. Still not quite. But in USD, maybe that was the price in 2016. Yeah. But yeah, certainly it's definitely on the low end now. That's for sure. It's probably triple that now. Yeah. So I don't know about the calculator thing. It's a tough thing to give people.
I think the intent is right.
Because the other thing you don't know is who's getting, even on the material side, who from where is using that calculator. Because we're up against that too. Because it's like, oh, this Trex.com is giving you USD pricing on all this stuff. Yeah. It's like, well, not only do you have the exchange rate to consider, but you've also got the extra freight, usually logistics in Canada. So the decking often, up here isn't just the exchange rate difference. It's usually a little bit more than the exchange rate difference. Mm-hmm. So you're saying the deck is $10,000, expect that. And it's like, well, before you've even started, it's 14 in Canada. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's Canadian dollars, but on your website, it's not necessarily saying this is in US dollars, check with your local, and maybe it has that caveat, but people don't pay attention to that. They see the 10.
That's what they want. They see what they want to see.
They see what they want to see.
Exactly.
Same as when you tell someone you're going to be there in 2 to 3 weeks. When are they there?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
It's like,
I don't know why you wouldn't make your calculators just a little overpriced though.
Yeah.
Overpriced.
It's tough because I also want to say, give it a range. Say it's between this and this, but when you give it a range, it feels even more fixed to me. Right?
Yeah.
When you say it's 10, people are like, oh, it's 10-ish. But when you say it's between 8 and 10, they're like, it'll be between 8 and 10. It won't be less than 8 and it won't be more than 10.
Yep.
Like a range feels more fixed because you've built in your balloon. You've built in the bookends, right?
Yep.
It's like it shouldn't be more or less than that.
$0 and $10,000.
Yeah. For a wood deck.
Exactly.
Mitcon Deck says we show pictures of decks we've built with price range below it to give people an idea on cost.
So that works.
That's good.
And
that's a good qualifier.
As long as you update your costs, I guess, as you go. That deck 4 years ago cost a lot less than it does today, I guess. But yeah, that's a decent way to go about it.
Yeah.
So next question. How does a contractor deal with inflation, like inflationary pricing within season and unstable commodity pricing? So it used to be that when you started a season, you could be pretty assured that the price you got from your local retailer in February was probably going to be good till the end of the year.
Yep.
You could book your jobs. When you went and bought it, it was the same price.
I'm not worried at all.
It would certainly get you half the year.
Yeah.
It would definitely get you half the year. Now, there's
half a week.
There's a lot of lumberyards that weren't guaranteeing their quotes for more than 14 days. Like a lot of them.
There's on commodities. There was some
was
locally.
zero.
It was 2 days. It was like this is good till Friday,
which is wild.
How do you as a contractor? How do you quote a job?
Well, that's
how do you quote a job?
I don't know.
That's where you have to
just
have
put a buffer in.
You have to have it in your contract that this is happening in the world. There has to be an allowance in there for if between the time that I've delivered this quote and the time that you book this in. And we get the materials, if there's a significant price change, it will have to be accounted for. Mm-hmm. There's no other way to do it. You can't say this deck's going to be 10 grand, you quote it in March. I'm booking into July though. And unless you're a guy who's got the capacity, who's like, they say yes in March and you buy the materials now to be ready for it. If you can, great.
No problem. You probably could if you took a deposit.
Right.
There you go.
But if that's not how that operates and you don't buy the materials till right before the job and the customer doesn't want to pay for the materials way before or something, then you have to have that allowance. How many guys got burned on that last year, last 2 years?
Yep.
But you
A
could,
lot.
like, you should be able to do that. You should be able to deliver the quote and then say to them, if you pay for the materials now, then I'll get the material and I'll put them in my yard, or I'll put them in your yard. Like, I'll secure this material for you. And if you don't want to purchase that now and you don't want to put a deposit down, that's fine. But we're going to requote this right before I start.
Yeah.
Like right before I start, 2 days before I fire everybody up,
Yep.
we're going to run these numbers again. And it'll be what it is. It might be lower, but that's not typically what happens with pricing.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to have that in there.
Plus, I also might give myself a raise.
Cover your
Because
own. Yeah.
tis
Well,
the
good
season.
news. Lumber stayed really stable from 4 months ago. However, I have a trip to Disney World planned,
Yep.
Yep.
So
and my price went up.
And
Labor
you're on the hook
prices
for
went up.
5% of that. So here you are.
So yeah, it just has to be dealt with in writing with your customer, and they have to understand that. There's no other way around this. Unless you've got such a massive markup on materials that you could absorb pricing jumping 50%. And even if you did have that big markup on there, you probably don't want to give up the margin you've decided you need to make on it.
Right.
Like, nobody can tell a contractor what his margin's supposed to be. It is for what his business is. So you shouldn't have to take way less because the material went up. You need to make sure that your customer has proper communication, has signed off on the fact that, yes, I understand that when this comes in, if the lumber has jumped more than 6% or whatever clauses you want to put in there,
Yeah.
that I will have to pay the difference, but I have the opportunity at that point to cancel or something. Like,
Yep.
give them that out if they absolutely need to, but
Boy, I would hope they wouldn't cancel,
you would
Right.
hope not to.
because then
but-
you open up a bunch of holes in your calendar.
Sure.
Like you think
but maybe you have a cancellation fee at that point. It's
Sure.
like, this is a busy year. If you cancel, there's a 5% fee on a
they're
cancellation.
just a flat number, right? It's like you have 1 day, it's like $1,000 to cancel.
Yeah.
Because it takes me a day where my guys will be down and I have to rearrange some stuff.
I mean, yeah. Or take that as the deposit in the beginning. You want to hold your spot, it's $1,000.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. Moral of the story is you can't you can't bet on this anymore. You can't just be like, oh, I'll absorb it if it changes a little bit, because it's too unstable
It will
right now
change.
to do that.
Yeah.
Like we haven't done it yet, but we just had a price increase from Regal Railing 3 days ago,
Yeah.
12%.
Yeah.
That's not a little bit.
No.
If you have $3,000 of railing going on this job, 12% is a few $100s, $400. That's a lot,
Yeah. If you quoted a job 3 days ago and then
Yeah.
came back and tried to buy it.
right? So yeah, even those more modest ones can really impact. But lumber, when we're talking lumber last year, that shit doubled from.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
1 month
Hopefully
to
you
the
have
next.
like a relationship with your vendors, right? Because let's be honest, Regal's going to go up, but we have some product in the building that hasn't it didn't cost us that.
Yeah.
The replacement of that costs. So
Yep.
maybe you can share it with the retailer or the contractor. You know what I mean? It's possible that if you have a really good relationship, if you're a contractor who's darkening the doors for the first time, we're not working together. The price is what the price is.
The price.
But if you're one of the guys that's been with us since day one and you quoted the job and you come in and you tell me your story, then I'll listen, and the price is the price. But I'll at least listen. No, but you know what I mean? We've done that. We've sold some material that was discounted because everybody knew that it was in the yard last year. And then it was like, I know your price is this year's price, but can you help me? It's like,
Right.
yeah, I can help.
Yeah.
I'm not going to what it was, but I'm not going to do what it is either. So
how do you choose?
Start again.
You can get there.
How do you deal with changes during the build? So you're in contract,
Awful. I hate change.
middle of it, customer's like, you know what? I think we need a privacy wall over here where the railing was going to go. I thought it would be more private, but it's not. I want to change that.
The license to print money is how I see that. You'll charge whatever. No. I think everybody knows the answer. Whether people actually do this or not is another thing. But the answer is, the right answer to this, Shane, is you get a work order or a change order form and you price it all out and you email it to the customer and you both sign off on it and you agree that that's what it's going to cost, and then you proceed with the work.
Yeah.
What actually happens
Correct.
is you put the wall up because that's what they asked for, and you're in a hurry and you're busy and you know you got to get to the next job, and what they did was they just added 6 more hours to your job, and you're like, well, shoot, now this other customer is going to be behind and I'm going to have to postpone stuff, and I don't want to do that, so I'll just build it because the guys are here and I can get this done. And then you send it to the customer and you're like, that 6 feet of wall is $3,100. And they're like, geez, I would have never done that. I don't want to pay $3,100 for it. And you're like, but you said you wanted it. And they're like, yeah, but if I would have known it was going to be $3,000, I wouldn't have done it. It's like, well, now what?
Well, we got ourselves in a pickle.
Right.
The
Exactly.
thing's built and they're
I'm
like,
not paying you.
yeah, I'm not paying you. That's crazy. That's an absurd amount of money for 6 feet. And you're like, well, I just did it because I had to get to the next job. So anyways, so that's what actually happens.
And you know what that guy probably also did was like, I won't even bother upcharging the labor on it. I'll just like just do the material difference, and I'll just do that. And there's a favor.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm already here.
I'm already here.
here.
It's not going to take. I'll just
do
eat it. They'll appreciate it, and then they're still not happy. They're
Yeah.
like, man, it was supposed to be 4. Like I'm only charging you the material
Listen
difference,
here, buddy.
Yeah, but now you're in a spot. It's like, well, that's not my fault. You didn't want to charge for it. Like you said you just do it. Because that'll happen lots on little things too. Oh, do you think you could just like
Build me a planter on the side of the stairs.
I kind of like on the gate there. I'd like my kids to be able to see. Could you just put like a little window in the gate? Oh yeah, like it won't take me long. I'll just do that.
Yeah.
Oh great, sounds good. Do you think you just like? Do you think you just do this? Oh yeah, no problem. I'll just do that. And all of a sudden you got these bunch of little things, and it costs you 4 more hours, and you're like, well, it was a bunch of little stuff that I was like, oh, I'm already here. Yeah. Costs you 4 more hours though.
Yep.
Add it up.
Yeah. So I don't think you have to do, I don't know. I don't think you have to do ones for, you probably don't have to do a change order for small little things.
Yeah.
If it's 1 or 2.
Yeah.
If it turns out that every day you come to work, there's a small change, like adding, and then maybe you have to sit down to your customer and be like, okay, so here we are, we're on day 4 and you've added 8 different things. I'm now up to a total of whatever, $1,500 in labor on these small little things that I was just going to throw in.
Mm-hmm.
We got to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I realize that half of them are done, but the other half are not done and they need to be accounted for.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Anyways, yeah, the right answer is a change order form. Properly cost it out.
Yeah. As soon as you start bringing materials in, though, you definitely have to do a change order.
Yeah. I don't know. Were you good at doing those?
Nope.
I was awful. I never did them.
No, I was not.
I sucked at it. And then, anyways, that's how I know what the pickle situation is, because
Yeah.
I lived it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm better now. Like here, when people are like, we got to do this, it's like, no problem. Because you're in your office more. And so having a proper estimator helps with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because you're able to actually have somebody sit down and do that. And so if you're out building on the job and you have an estimator that works 2 days a week or 3 days a week, you can say to your customer, oh, my estimator is in 2 days from now. I'll get you a price on that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're here. Just do it now. Nope.
Yeah, nobody wants to stop, right? Because some of these changes they might ask for might not require you to stop what you're doing. But if you had to price it out, then deliver it, and then wait for feedback, whatever, that's a hard stop right there.
That's a hard stop.
That could be days.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like if it's like a framing change and you're at the framing stage and it's like, actually, could we just bump this a little bit more? And you have the lumber on, like a little bit extra lumber on site, and you could probably make it happen. It's so tempting to just be like, guys, we're going to bump this out over here a little bit and
But
do
it changes your, like it potentially changes your railing. It changes your board count. It changes your picture frame. It changes the cutoffs that you were going to use for that to do your stairs. Like
Changes everything.
if the deck was 16 feet out and you were doing 4-foot stairs, you were going to use those cutoffs on your stairs. And if you bump it out to 17, now you got a new board to add.
Right. And you did have 8-foot rail panels and a 1 line post, and that was going to work. But now it's 17 feet. So now you got to use 3 6-foot panels and an extra line post. And you just drove up $180 in extra railing right there too.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, at the time, it was like, that's just an extra foot. To everybody, it was just an extra foot.
And it's not that bad.
And then,
now
not just an extra foot.
Now it's bad.
Yeah.
USMC says, do you add extra when you know they will be a difficult customer? Extra on the front end, he means. So you're doing your quote and you're like, this guy's going to be a pain in my ass. I'd be tempted to not do the job at all at that point. But
Yeah, I don't think it's worth it to even do it.
yeah. What do they call that? There's a word for that where you're like, I'm just going to give them a super high quote so that like they don't do the job, but
PFO.
if I get it, then at least I'm making a ton of money on it. No, it's not a mercy quote. It's like what do you call it?
I don't know.
I don't want to take anymore. It's like, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. Anyways, I have bid jobs that I knew were going to be complicated and the customers were going to be complicated. And I bid accordingly, hoping to lose the job.
yeah.
And was just like, I'm just going to make this so high that if I get it, I can tolerate it. It turns out you can't.
It turns out
I was
you
just
can't
gonna say,
tolerate it.
the problem doesn't go away. I don't think
No.
making a little bit more money on that job makes it any less awful to be on. Like, you're
It's awful.
still going to hate it.
Yeah.
If you know that they're going to be an absolute headache, making an extra couple bucks is not going to solve that problem for you. You're still going to be stressed out. You're still going to hate your life. And you know what? They're still not going to pay at the end anyway.
No, they're
Yeah.
still
You're
gonna
going to put that big buffer in just so you can get your original amount.
Does
plus
it
the headache.
feel better if they owe you $8,000 instead of $6,000 at the end and they won't pay it either way? It's like,
Exactly.
probably feels shittier when it's
I
$8,000.
feel like they're gonna feel like they own you more because now they know it's a premium price because
Yeah.
you were probably the highest guy.
Yeah. Tough call on that.
I would build,
I'd
I'd
rather
build
not
some
do it.
in to lose it. That's what I used to do. Now it's just like the price is the price.
Final question, and this is for contractors that are trying to work their way up. How do you charge what you're worth? There's always contractors. They're usually younger ones, or they've never tried to shift their market they're working towards, but they want to do these bigger jobs. They want to be able to charge more, but they can't because everybody in their market, nobody would ever pay that. And my competitors are all too low, and so on and so forth. How do you get to the point of being able to charge what you're actually worth?
You land one.
You start way higher.
No, you land one. That's it. Like you finally deliver a quote that's high and you lose it. And then you deliver a quote that's high and you lose it. And then you deliver a quote that's high and you land it. And you're like, there. Now you have the confidence. But not until somebody actually bites on it. You have to put the price up first. You have to be the one that risks it. You have to be ready to lose a job. And then once somebody purchases that high price, then you have the confidence to keep going.
Right.
But it requires you just deciding you're going to, and knowing, being prepared, and knowing you're going to lose one.
Yep.
Or two or 10.
I think you also, in a way, need to dress for the job you want, because you're comparing what exactly? You're comparing what one guy charges versus the next guy. Well, we've already talked about how not all deck builders are the same. So you're sitting there and being like, I can't get more than $15 a square foot in my market. There's no way I could do that. And it's like, how are you getting $40 a square foot? Well, for one, like, market activity might have something to do with it, but also maybe you're a guy who's driving around in a half ton with a magnet on the side of your door. And the guy who's getting 40, maybe he's got like a showroom and he's got full staff and they're like, they do 100 projects a year and they're all 6-figure and up and whatever else. Like, they're going to attract those high-end customers. And
Yes.
you've got to put on that show before you can get the high-end customers. Aren't going to come find a low budget builder.
Nope.
The more you continue to charge what you think you can only charge, the less chance you're going to have of ever attracting what you want. Right?
Yeah. But of course you can't just have a showroom and 4 employees that work on quotes and have a big pimpin' truck like that. It doesn't start like that.
But
It
you have
starts
to-
with dress nicer,
Yep.
show up on time.
You have to provide more value than the guys you're claiming you can't beat right now.
But you have to
Well,
be-
they only charge 15. Well, what can you do better to charge 20 and
Right.
then 25 and then 30
Yep.
and then whatever? It's probably not an overnight thing for you to be like, today I charge 15 and tomorrow I'm charging 40. You might have to creep it up and be like, well, how are you better than these other guys? Well, I'm better because of this. And find out what your benefits are of working with you, what
So-
value you're providing.
The podcast we just did a couple weeks ago was with David, and he talked about, from LS Underground, he talked about how winning those NADRA awards was a goal of his, so that he could use those awards to then charge more.
Right.
He was like, I have to lose a little bit, or I have to work a little bit harder now. And then once I establish that I am kind of like a world
Right.
famous, or at
World
least a
class.
US famous,
At least a podcast famous.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like he's an award-winning deck builder. And until you can be award-winning, you don't provide more value than the other guy.
Right.
So-
And that alone, that gives you more
There it is.
value.
Now
to
you have
charge more.
clout. And it's like, well, why are you more? Well, let me show you all of my awards.
Right.
Yeah, you might have to, like he mentioned on there, he's still eating it on a lot of jobs. He's like, I'm just like, I'm not making great money in these because I just want to get it done so I can win the award. But as long as you have you can't do your business like that forever, but as long as you have a goal or a strategy behind that where it's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get a few jobs out there, to get them in my portfolio, to get the award, to put on the wall, to talk about, to like all this, to build that brand first. And then I can then the next time somebody wants this, they've come to me wanting that because they see my ability and they're probably more the customer that I need.
Right.
Or they're willing to pay. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure that we've all done it. Like I absolutely, when I was still building, there was some fancy shit we did too that was like, I didn't make money on that fancy shit, but it was pretty cool. And it won an award here or there. And it was like, allowed you to market yourself a bit more. And it opened people's eyes and was like, wow, nobody else can do that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then you ate it on one job and you can make it up for the rest of your career.
Potentially, yeah.
You had a customer that came to you and was just like, you're building my deck. And it was like, well, you didn't get a quote from anybody else? It was like, nope, just you.
Yeah.
You're the only one. And so be fair, but you're the person that's going to build it for me.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, well, there you are.
And I certainly found like that, to your point, once you get one big one, they seem to find you then if you do a good job on that one.
Yeah.
Because those people
Those
they got
people have
rich
friends. Yeah.
right?
No, that's right.
That starts to get out there.
Yep.
And especially in smaller markets where there's not a bunch of high-end guys, where it's like a whole bunch of guys that can build decks. If one just kind of rises above a little bit, all of a sudden that's the guy that all the rich people look for. And if that's what you want to do is the big high-end jobs, then you just got to get that first one.
Yep.
Knock it out of the park.
You got to knock it out of the park.
Yep.
I think that's one of the most important things. And then the second thing is you have to be you have to be prepared to raise your price on the second one or the third one or whatever you deem to be as many projects as you need to get under your belt, because so many people get trapped in the idea that, well, I charge this for that. Nobody's going to pay me $50,000. Like you get down on your price, right?
Yeah.
There's just a ton of fear behind it too. Because everybody starts out wanting to get every job that they can, because it's a scary thing to go into business for yourself. Even if you were in business before and you've decided to specialize in decks, there's always this fear. It's like, is there enough work? I have to win every job. Mm-hmm. And you feel like the only way you can do that is by winning on price all the time. And that might be true sometimes in your market. If you're the green guy, you might have to win on price for a little bit until you've built your portfolio and you've got a brand and people recognize that, and you have your reviews and stuff that you can share, and you have some people that you can refer people to talk to. Be like, yeah, here's my other clients. Go talk to them. They have great things to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Until you've got that, you might have to provide value by providing a better price. But there's people that can never break that mindset, right? They're just like, that's what my market is. Yeah, you're the one setting that.
You did that.
I guess the other thing is you could start by offering what you think you're worth and just see how many jobs you lose or win.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yep.
Right?
That's scary.
It's super
people,
scary
right?
because you're going to be dead in the water for a while.
When you lose the first 30 jobs you quote, you're like, oh shit, got to put food on the table.
Yep.
Suddenly your mindset changes quite a bit.
It's scary.
It's scary, but you also, like anybody who's done it, always has great things to say.
Mm-hmm.
I just decided after, yeah, because it was never the fear was more scary than the reality of it. It's like the same thing when people are like, I'm going to start charging for estimates. Everybody's so scared to start charging for estimates till they do it.
Yeah.
Find out that like, I've got so much more time because I'm not dealing with tire kickers anymore. My business is more profitable. I'm happier.
Spend more time with my family.
Happier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Everything about this is fantastic, but it's just a scary leap to make. It's no different than being like, I'm going to start choosing to work with high-end clients. I'm going to charge more. Okay, well, your old days of winning 50% of your jobs is going away, and it's not supposed to be like that. It's okay that you're only going to win 10% now.
Yep.
You don't have time to do 50% of the quotes. You can't anymore.
Yep.
Because the one you win is going to be 2.5 months long.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
TC Deck says, I felt more clout when I got my trailer wrapped. Weird, but true.
yeah, for sure.
I don't think that is weird. I think that does give you more clout. Yeah. You show up, you look like this is a professional operation that builds decks seriously, not just like rolls in with a buddy and a case of beer in the weekend. Like, this is your profession. That gives you more trust, which means you can charge more.
Yeah.
That's part of it. It's part of the equation.
Yeah, that's that unwritten, like the undocumented psychology of the whole thing, right? That's you show up at the house for a quote and you come with a truck and trailer that are wrapped and you look good. And then the next guy comes in and it's like a rusted out truck and all the tools are hanging out of the box and he came right from the job site. You better be 10,000 higher.
Yeah, exactly.
They probably wouldn't want your quote to be the same.
Yeah. But think about it from something that you're not familiar with, like getting your furnace fixed or something. If I had to call an HVAC company to fix my furnace, and I called a couple and I got them to come out. The guy that rolls up in a van that's all deckled out and it's a company I know, I'm good with him being in my house fixing my furnace. But if I've called and I'm expecting that, and what actually rolls up is a dude in a Civic and a Home Depot bucket full of tools that he walks in with and no branding or anything, I'm like,
he's a Home Depot authorized professional.
He might be great. But he sure doesn't give me confidence because his image doesn't say that we're a company that specializes in this.
Yeah, he might be the best furnace fixer in the whole planet.
Yeah.
But he ain't walking in my door.
He's the furnace fixing savant.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's it. That's all the questions about price. We answered none of them. We just talked about them. It was good.
Good.
So
good.
It's tricky. Price is a tricky thing. That's why people don't like to talk about it. Not us, though.
We like to talk about price.
Right.
Price doesn't scare us.
Well,
sometimes it does.
Sure it does.
USMC says you always feel more confident when you look the part and dress the part and present yourself as a professional. There's that too.
Wait, do you golf a lot?
No.
Say,
I used to.
Is that a question or a statement?
Yeah.
Okay, so you used to.
Yeah.
Do you have specific clothes for golfing?
Certainly I do.
Okay. Does it make you feel like you're a better golfer even though you're not?
No, sometimes I wear those clothes. Sometimes I wear them because you have to.
Right.
Yeah, most of the time actually it's because
You have to.
Because you have to.
No, for sure. I absolutely have some shirts that when I put them on, I feel like I will play better.
You're like Tiger.
Which never happens. But I know what you mean. Like
you dress the part.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I dress differently if I'm about to play in a tournament than if I'm going to go like just play golf with buddies. Yep.
There you go.
That's the answer. Next week, we are going to be doing the podcast from Texas, Mount Pleasant, Texas.
Pleasant.
So I'm not sure what the schedule is for releasing. We're recording a bunch of episodes down there.
We'll see if we can do any of them live. I don't know what the Wi-Fi
We should
is
try
gonna
to.
be like out there.
I was like, we should try to do one live.
Try and do one.
From there.
So we have some sponsored episodes we're going to do with some of the great manufacturers that are down there, and we're going to try to line up some in-person interview style ones with some of the contractors that are there as well, because those are always great episodes, and anytime you can do them in person, it's like way better.
Way better.
I think that do we want to say who we're talking to?
You know better than I do.
Yeah, we're going to try to talk to...
Well, don't say who we're trying to. What are the ones that are we doing for sure? I don't want to set expectations we don't meet.
So we have a sponsored one with Decorators. We
Yep.
have a sponsored one with Fortress.
Yep.
Sponsored one with Newcastle.
Nope. We don't have a
Camel.
sponsored.
Oh, the podcast we don't. Well, we'll end up talking to him though.
Just a little.
Like Jason will be there at some point, and then Camo is also done. But some of the people that are down there, like Jason Varney is there, Blake from California Deck Pros is there, Nick Lahr from Decorators are there, and so those are some of the people that we're going to try to talk to. Scott, the old Godfather himself.
Yeah, some of this is going to be a little bit fly by night, see how much time we have and what's going on, but we're going to try to get some people on the mic.
I'm thinking that the Decorators one is going to have the guys in there, right? Like that's when Varney and Blake will be on it. So,
yep.
Anyways, that's what we're trying.
So great stuff. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you live from Texas next week. Hit it, Bryce. Let's get out of here.
Hey, thank you for listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast. Now you know what we're about. Check the site, come and shop. UltimateDeckShop.com. Hit us right away for sponsorships or tell us if you want to collaborate. Let's go. Check us out on any social networks. Thank you for listening.